Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Recently, the president took the esteemed establishment that was the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts and decided to slap his name on it, making it the Donald J. Trump and John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, making the 54-year-old cultural center the latest victim of the president's desire to put his name on just about everything, whether he has anything to do with it or not. In this case, despite the fact that only Congress has the authority to rename it, since they were the ones who established the Kennedy Center being named after the late John F. Kennedy. And it's not even the first time the president and the administration went around Congress to do what they wanted. When an act of Congress said they were not allowed to name military bases after Confederate generals, they just renamed them after people with the exact same last name. So they could still carry the name of the general, but they could say, oh, no, it's named after someone else that just happens to have the same name. And President Trump loving to put his name on just about everything. It was a well-known thing even before his jump into politics. Trump steaks, Trump University, Trump casinos, Trump hotels, everything had to be Trump. Naming things after himself was his brand, literally, since things like Trump hotels are actually just licensing his name, and he does not own them. So I suppose in a lot of ways it was no surprise when once he became the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, he decided to put his name on slightly more significant things, such as the U.S. Institute of Peace, which he rebranded as the Donald J. Trump U.S. Institute of Peace. Despite the fact, of course, that Donald Trump is one of the least peaceful people you can think of, it made it especially ironic when you consider that he only just recently announced the Navy would be building a fleet of new Trump-class battleships. Nothing says peace like having battleships named after you. Unfortunately, the Trumpification of our nation's capital is likely not to be over. All of this has come only in his first year of his second term. Likely it won't be long before we're all flying into Donald Trump International Airport and riding the Trump train back into the city because he's renamed the DC Metro after himself. And the question everyone's been asking, I guess everyone outside of the Donald Trump cult, is why exactly does he feel the need to do this? Sure, Donald Trump has a history of loving his name on everything he can find. Now that he has the opportunity to do it on a large scale, he will go for it. And it's far too easy to write it off as just more of his ego and vanity and just loving the idea of putting his name on significant cultural objects. And it absolutely is those things, but it's also a bit more insidious than just that. When you change what something is named, you change how something is perceived. It's what strongmen and autocrats do when they seize power. They strip away the identities of the things that came before them and reestablish them as something that they are a part of, that their party is a part of, reminding the people who is in control. If it was just about his usual vanity and just about wanting to have his name on things, he could easily have made it the John F. Kennedy and Donald J. Trump Center for the Performing Arts. But he put his name first, and that's significant, as we all know. The one who has the top billing has the top importance. So of course he put himself at the top to remind everyone that he is the most important, that this is the Donald J. Trump Center for the Performing Arts. If he could get away with it, he would have taken the Kennedy name off of it entirely. He wants everyone to know that he is the king here, and everyone will speak his name as much as possible. Put simply, it's a power move, and one he's getting away with very consistently. He had the audacity to claim that the renaming of the Kennedy Center came as a surprise and great honor to him when he had completely dismissed the entire board of the Kennedy Center and replaced them with hand-picked members. The idea that he did not know they were going to do that is ludicrous, and the idea that he personally instructed them to do so seems incredibly plausible and believable. I feel, though, in his bid to look strong, President Trump actually does quite the opposite. This flurry of renaming things after himself in the nation's capital reeks of weakness, of desperation. He wants so badly to have a lasting legacy, but it seems he feels that if he names as many things as possible after himself, people will be forced to remember him after he's gone. The problem there, of course, is that only works if the people actually want to remember him and actually want to use these new names. Despite the fact that Washington National Airport was renamed after Ronald Reagan in 1998, you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone in the DC metro area who calls it by that name. It will always be National Airport regardless of how many decades have passed since it was renamed. Much how locals in Chicago will always call it the Sears Tower, even if right now it is technically the Willis Tower. Names have power, and the Donald Trump administration is hoping that people will bow to his power and call things by his name. But they don't have to do that, and likely many will not. I doubt very much, outside of a few loyal Republicans, anyone's going to call it the Donald J. Trump and Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. It's going to be the Kennedy Center because that's what it's always been, and that's what it will always be, whether he literally put his name on it or not. Only time will tell how long these name changes actually last, in their official capacities at any rate. I think it's fairly likely that at the very least the Kennedy Center will not remain with Donald Trump's name on it once the new administration comes into power, since it was done without congressional approval in the first place. And there will be likely great rejoicing when his name is literally torn off the side of the Kennedy Center building. In a lot of ways, Donald Trump didn't have to rename a bunch of stuff after himself to secure himself a presidential legacy. He will already go down as one of the worst presidents in American history, possibly towards the top. His name and time in office will likely be reviled for generations in the same way Nixon or Andrew Jackson's have been. Ultimately, his bid for immortality through renaming of things will fail, much like most of the things that he put his name on have. His bid to Trumpify everything will be seen more akin to an animal urinating on things to mark it as their territory. Though, unlike that urine, his reversing all these renamings won't be quite as easy, but it will happen. To keep these naming conventions alive, it would require a great deal of public support, something it simply does not have. The Donald Trump Institute of Peace likely doesn't have a life beyond Trump's term in office. People just don't want his name on everything, even though he absolutely does. We've already seen one example where his attempt at renaming something has completely failed. His attempt to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America has largely been ignored by most of the national and international press, despite the administration's push that everyone call it the Gulf of America. Much like that one scene in Mean Girls, they're telling the administration to stop trying to make Gulf of America happen. It's not happening. So it's very easy to mock or straight up ignore these name changes. It's important to not lose sight of what these name changes are attempting to do. As I alluded to before, a name is not just a name. Names have power. It means something. He's renaming these things after himself because he wants it to be a part of his power. These things now belong to him. They are a part of the regime. Things which once belonged to the American people now belong to Trump. He's trying to memorialize himself while he's still alive, in hopes that once he's not, everyone will love and revere him because his name is on all these things. But much like Gulf of America, that's not going to happen. The American people on the whole already don't like him. So this idea that he's going to live through all of his renamed places and things after his time in office and his human form are long gone seems unlikely at best. When you really get down to it, Donald Trump does not deserve to have these things named after him because he has not earned that distinction. He has not achieved anything in his time in office, be it in his first term or this second one, that has made naming something like an office building or an airport after him feels warranted. Those are usually done as a sign of respect for the man. This is a man who has never earned anyone's respect. So perhaps knowing that fact, and that no one would ever want to name anything after him after he's gone, he's going around and doing it himself while he can. I think the only thing he can reliably count on being named after him once he is shuffled off this mortal coil is possibly a public toilet or toxic waste dump. But to think his name will remain in the city next to names like Lincoln, Jefferson, Washington is almost laughable, because he is nowhere near their level and will never be remembered anywhere close to them. He has not and never will earn the right to have his name on things in our nation's capital. His attempt to look like a strong man has only made him look more like the weak man that he is. and always has been. He is unworthy of being memorialized. And once his time as president has come to an end at long last, so will all of his attempted memorializations. His attempts to brand the city with his name will fail, as it should. Many are foreseeing something akin to the de-Stalinization that happened after the death of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, where his monuments were removed, his names were removed from places and buildings, and the cult of personality he had grown in his time in power was denounced. I, for one, greatly look forward to that. The sooner we can strip his name off of all the things that he put it on, the better. I almost hope he builds a statue to himself so that we can symbolically knock it over once he's gone, as has been done for many of the other dictators and autocrats throughout history. A toppled statue really is the only thing he deserves to have his name on in Washington. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time when I cut you off another slice of news.